Hello, hello. This is Cybersecurity Expert Reginald Andre with ArcSolver Cybersecurity. And today we are going live with a very big situation that we have right now with the Colonial pipeline. We're seeing news reports about gas shortages. And I wanted to take this time to bring in another cybersecurity expert to get another perspective as far as what's happening. And most importantly, how to protect your business from this to make sure that this doesn't happen to your business. So, Vlad, thank you so much for coming on today.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody.
So I'm sure our audience don't know who you are. Of course, the people that you're streaming this with on your Facebook and LinkedIn pages, they know who you are. So tell us a little about yourself, your professional background, and where you live.
We are located in Northeast Florida, 4 hours more north from where ArcSolver is. We are a small managed service provider in Northeast Florida. We help small to medium businesses with their IT needs.
Awesome.
Background is worked for before I started the company. While I was working with the different managed service providers, and I was working with Microsoft, specifically Office 365 side, started as a concierge, and then after that as a premier support engineer.
Awesome. And for those of you that don't know, to be a Microsoft Premier Support Engineer, these are the guys when nobody else knows what's going on, you call people like Vlad. And that's why I thought it was very important to give a lot of insight, because we're actually also finding out that some of the issues that how Colonial Pipeline may have been hacked may have dealt with the Microsoft Exchange server. So we'll be talking about that as well. So let's first get to the article, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a moment. And essentially what we're trying to do is we want to give tips to business owners on what they should be doing to protect their business, because I would say cybersecurity is kind of like having that alarm system in your home. If a burglar is trying to get into your home and they have your house, which has the locked doors, that has an alarm system, that has a dog in the back, that's fenced, and everything is locked and secure, versus your neighbor's home where it may be a glass house, the gate is broken, the back door is slightly left open. Of course, the hacker is going to want to go to the easiest target. So that's why it's very important that we take a look at what the FBI and government agencies are now telling business owners. If you don't want this to happen to you, this is what you need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. And essentially what we're going to be talking about is what they're recommending to do. So what we're going to be doing is going point by point, high level overview. We're going to try to keep this conversation as less technical as possible, because we know you business owners kind of just want us to get to the point and just to kind of say, hey, do I have this? Do I not have this? So it's sort of like a checklist. Now, cybersecurity is not a checklist in the sense of just making sure that these things are done and set it and forget it. It's a very ongoing process, but we want to be able to break down what they're saying here. So it's called CISA, which stands for Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And I'm also going to take the link and put it in the comments below. And we would also like this to be a very interactive live. So if you do have any questions as Vlad is speaking, feel free to put the comments below, and we'll go ahead and stop and we'll answer any questions that you have for your business. So we're going to first start getting here, and just to kind of just read the first couple of sentences. It says the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and the FBI are aware of ransomware attacks affecting a criminal infrastructure, the pipeline company, which we're talking about, Colonial. Malicious cyber attacks deploy dark side ransomware against the pipeline's company IT systems. So first off, Vlad, and I'm going to head and stop sharing the screen here. Tell us, what is ransomware?
Ransomware, it's pretty much if if you get let's say email comes in and somebody is trying to, let's say, you have two companies that are working on daily basis, right? They are working on daily basis, exchanging emails, everything is okay. And one of those two companies, one of them get compromised. And all of a sudden you're exchanging, they know that you're exchanging, they are monitoring pretty much, let's say that email account get compromised, and they're monitoring without doing anything. They have access, they gain access to that particular mailbox, that particular user, due to poor password or whatever. They're monitoring what's happening on a daily basis, and as soon as they see that there's any kind of, let's say, if there's any kind of wire transfer that needs to be completed, or any kind of payments that needs to be completed from company A to company B, then they jump in and they pretty much represent themselves as that second party that is communicating with the company A. And once they do that, they pretty much, with the phishing attempts, they're trying to either send you to the different locations where you can make the payments to somebody else if you don't pay attention, or if somebody click on something, let's say attachment, or pretty much what they can do, what I'm trying to do here to do as simple as possible, is that, let's say you click an attachment, you download the file, you execute that file, and pretty much your system get compromised, your whole system. If you have a higher level permissions on your desktop or laptop, it's going to encrypt your whole network, and then attacker is coming with a ransomware, pretty much asking you to do the payments for certain things to help you, kind of to pretend to be a good guy and help you unencrypt that data. And that's when they jump in and they say, hey, you have to pay for this, or otherwise you're down for business. Those are the things that's happening these days.
Exactly. So in this case here with Colonial Pipeline, they had a ransomware attack on their systems. And one of the first things that you should always do, and Glad, let me know your perspective as well as the expert in this panel, is what should you be doing if you realize that one day you come into your office, or your employee comes into their office, and they attempt to open up a Word document or a proprietary software that you have in your system, and all it just says is like X's and O's and numbers, and there's a sign that says, we have your files, you have been ransomware. What should a business owner immediately do?
Don't open unknown attachments. It's very hard to do. We are all humans, we all make mistakes, right? It's pretty much, you can implement security features to kind of try to prevent that, but there is always that factor that you can click on something that shouldn't be clicked. But you can definitely prevent by implementing something called security awareness. Security awareness, I believe, play a very big key. When employee comes to work every morning, they get their coffee, they sit under their desk, and they try to start to work, right? What you can do is implement security awareness where they can watch certain trainings, or try to recognize when the email that is come in, it's not something that looks normal. When you have, like, say, a bunch of zeros, bunch of X's, ones, doesn't matter. That's what I would recommend. Security awareness is, plus we can also implement different things when it comes to the spam filtering and everything else.
Right, but what I'm saying is, let's just say all of that has passed, and someone just walked into their office, they tried to open up a file, and now they're not able to access it because they have ransomware. So what should be that next step that person does?
The next step should be power off the whole network before it goes further, right? Pretty much shut it down immediately, and then contact either your security experts, meaning your insurance companies if you have. Then they have pretty much the team that will take care of that. Absolutely, by all means, yes.
Yeah. So okay. So and that's exactly what Pipeline did. They realized that there was an issue, and they turned off their systems. They turned off their computers because they did not want this to spread, because they don't know how severe this is. So now let's go ahead into the article, and let's first talk about the first thing that they are saying, Vlad. About go ahead.
Absolutely. So pretty much the first step that they mentioned on the mitigations are require multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is a normal thing these days. I do understand that there is a certain laws in place. Let's say in California, I know there is a law in place where you cannot use your own device to multi-factor authenticate you. Let's say you cannot use your cell phone, your personal, even though, I mean, laws are laws, right? We have to respect them. So there is a different ways of pretty much what that stands for is just a secondary device. Can be cell phone, can be desktop app, can be your email, additional email, doesn't matter. It's pretty much additional verification for your account, so you can prevent if somebody, let's say, somebody break your password and they have access to your either email account or your domain account, doesn't matter, gain access to your PC. If they gain that, this is something that will stop them of going further, right? And when we have a security in place, we will definitely know if somebody's trying to use your compromised account and try to make any kind of malicious activities. So it's pretty much a secondary way of secondary tool that you can use to authenticate your account towards email, towards domain, towards applications as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, and I'm sure that FBI and CISA didn't put this as there's no order of importance. They're all equally important. However, I would say that a lot of these situations could have been stopped, and we're not speculating. We're not, doing anything like that because we don't know the full details of the Colonial pipeline. But many other situations we've seen had a simple two-form factor authentication been set up where, because the hacker does not have your phone and they don't have that 6-digit code that's changing every time in the app, the hacker will not be able to fully get in because they don't have that employee's phone. So let's go ahead. Yeah, so let's go ahead, and you kind of touched on this, the second one, where it says enable strong spam filters to prevent phishing emails from reaching end users. So again, we're talking to business owners. If you just came in, and we are talking about an article that the FBI and the CISA has released as far as what businesses should be doing to protect their businesses so that you don't get hacked, like how we're seeing with the Colonial pipeline. So Vlad, first of all, spam filters, phishing emails, non-technical, talk about that and what businesses should have when it comes to that.
Okay, I will try as best as I can. So pretty much you have your business have an email address associated with your domain name, which is the name of your company, doesn't matter. You have a mail service in the cloud that are in charge of, or in this case with the pipeline, on-site, on-premises. There is something called spam filter, which pretty much filtrates your email that is coming from outside world. If we don't have those spam filters, your email account will look like with all kind of things, right? Strong spam filters means you implement the policies where they can prevent phishing attempts, malware attacks, etc., etc. It's just a device software, let's say, between your email server and outside world. Critical to have that. If you don't have, I mean, every single server out there in the cloud from the third-party companies have the spam filters even built in. You can always purchase the third-party spam filters who may be doing a better job or maybe they're doing a poorer job. All depends on the vendors that you can choose from out there. But spam filter is pretty much just a bridge between your internal network and your internal email server and the outside world. Pretty much filter for your emails on the plane. Yeah.
And it's so important to have that in your business because it's kind of like a forefront, because you can't trust the user. When we say users, we're talking about your employees, to always be able to catch things, because these hackers are very, very smart. That they can just change one letter in a domain name, and they do so much different things. So having a spam filter. Oh, here we have someone, and thank you so much, Agnes, for commenting. She's saying, do I find the spam filter in my settings tab for my email? So go ahead and answer that one, Vlad.
We don't have spam filter inside your tab. However, if you're using Outlook clients, there is a add-in that you can deploy. Let's say in this case, we're talking about Office 365 servers. There's an option that you can deploy add-in where you can report certain emails. Are they phishing? Are they junk? Are they good email or they're bad email? That's something that you can do through your Outlook client. If you're using any kind of other mail clients, you don't have those options. Let's say if you're using open source like Gmail accounts or Yahoo or even AOL, believe me or not, even using those, there isn't such a filter. They do have some kind of filtering on the server side, but you cannot change it yourself. Only if you have a professional services like Office 365 or G Suite or other email providers out there.
Awesome. Thank you, Agnes, for that question. And if anybody else have any questions, you ever been on a panel and it's a whole bunch of attorneys and you're like, my gosh, I can ask a question and nobody's going to bill me. This is the time to ask the questions where we have a cybersecurity expert, someone who worked at Microsoft for many years, and now he has jumped to work with his own business. And so this is the time to ask any questions that you have. So now we're going to go to the third suggestion that the FBI and CISA is saying to do, and that's implement a user training program and simulated attack for spear phishing. So again, we want to try to make this as English as possible. So Vlad, I'm a business owner, and tomorrow, Thursday, I'm going to be going into my office, and I want to implement a user training program. What the heck does that mean? Is this going to be one of those manuals where we spend thousands of dollars and then nobody ends up reading it, and then the employee just signs it saying they read it and then just leave it alone?
No, Andre, this is not that. It's pretty much, this is what it is. This is something that you have to discuss, first of all, with the management, right? It's part of your stack, and that's something that every single IT company should be doing with their customers. It's pretty much the program that it's a simulate attacks. It's exactly what is written there. So pretty much me as an IT owner are training employees of the company XYZ, right? I'm sending an email targeting particular users within the organization of XYZ company and trying to pretty much see if what's going to happen, right? Are the users going to click on the email? If they're going to click on email, they're going to get a training. Either that's going to be animated training or that's going to be a short video saying, why did you click on that email? And educate you not to do that in the future. More we are doing that, the better chance of protecting your network will be, right? No matter how many policies we set up in place, there will always be something that's going to happen if somebody is going to maybe click on something or do something that not even realizing it's doing that. Very, very, very important step in protecting the clients is implementing a security awareness training. That's exactly what this step is. Plain English, simple as that, is trying to compromise internal users by sending emails that are planned emails that look similar to the attackers.
Exactly. And I always say when it comes to cybersecurity, it's a culture. It's not something that you should just do once to check off something and then next quarter you do it again. This should be something every day, every week. When you have your weekly meetings with your team members, you're talking to them. You're telling them about what's going on. Hey, guys, look, we heard about this. You can always Google, cybersecurity and look at news articles and talk about things. And this sending out fake emails may seem a little sneaky, but training that employee on what to look for, and because we all do it, we're just working. We got our two monitors, we're multitasking, and then all of a sudden an email comes in. You don't even pay attention to it. You're clicking on the attachment, you're clicking on the link, and then boom, they got you. So one email a week, just sending a test email, making sure that your employees stop and take information, it's going to be so important. So Agnes, you're on fire. Thank you so much for participating. So I'm going to go ahead and put the question here. She's saying, are there, and this is again going back to when you have that panel and everything's for free, this is when you take advantage. So no hate there, Agnes. Keep on going. Are there basic user training program resources we can use preferably for a healthcare business? Is this something different from being HIPAA compliant? Vlad, I'm glad you're the cybersecurity expert today, and I'm not answering that question, so go for it.
So basic user training, that's, of course, everything is open these days. You can definitely research by using any kind of Google, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, or any of those web browser. You can simply search for training, security awareness training, and you can go ahead and take a look. There's a certain campaigns that you can run through the third parties, hire them as well if you wish to. Even though we highly recommend to go through your IT company, of course, by all means, because it has to be configured within your organization in order for this to work. Without the IT, I think it will be very, very difficult. If you have, of course, any kind of security in place, because those spam filters will block these kind of emails. So you have to manually release them or configure it that way that they will work. HIPAA compliant is very, very tricky, if I can say, very sensitive area of work for all of us. You're dealing with customer sensitive data like a social securities, where small mistake can cost you your business, can cost you lawsuits and all of these things if you don't take care of the certain things. But definitely, it's not different. Email cyber security awareness is the same for all. HIPAA compliant is just different type of data you are working with, but security awareness is definitely going to apply for all of them.
Exactly. And here Agnes said that she's using something, I guess she has like a Gmail or a business Gmail. So yeah, it really doesn't matter what email. You can have Microsoft Office, GoDaddy, Google. The whole point is to make sure that your employees are getting the proper training and not just watching the video and they're hitting next, but they're actually getting simulated attacks. And they are special ones for HIPAA because, for example, the simulated attack can be from another doctor's office and trying and saying, hey, we need the charts, our mutual patient client move from your office to our office, and we need the charts. And so that's when it comes to HIPAA, the simulated attacks or phishing emails, they start to look more towards the medical industry. That's really the big difference.
Comes to pretty much the same when you think about, right? It is kind of, a little bit different, but attack is attack. Phishing attack is a phishing attack. It comes to the same way of trying to compromise end user. Definitely, security awareness is one thing, and we touched that in the beginning as well. I mentioned a few things as well about that. It's definitely highly recommend to contact your IT for help with that, by all means.
Yep. All right. So next one next one we're going to have is filter network traffic. And I'm going to read a little more. It says to prohibit ingress and egress communications with known malicious IP addresses, prevent users from accessing malicious websites by implementing URL block lists and or allow lists. So again, this is why we're doing this video, because the FBI released this for business owners to implement in their business. How is a business, if you're a manufacturer owner and you're just working, you're a financial firm, you're just trying to do what you do for a living, how in the heck are you going to even understand that? So that's why we have Vlad. And Vlad, can you pronounce your last name for the world? We're all good. Thank you. I'm just going to say Vlad from GVSIT Services. And what city are you in again, Vlad?
Northeast Florida. We are located between Jackson and Orlando, right in the middle, close to San Augustine.
So the cool thing with Vlad is that, and especially with IT and especially with cybersecurity, it doesn't really matter where we are anymore. Vlad, has a customer in California where he does tons and tons of work, and he does it all from remote. So especially with how things are shifting from normal, oh, my computer's going slow, to cybersecurity, always think about that as well, that you can now have partners such as Vlad no matter what. So if you're in Miami, call me. But if you're outside of Miami, we don't do any business outside of the South Florida market. And if you're in another state, or if you're in Northern Florida, Vlad is your guy. So let's go to the next one. Oh, well, we already talked about it slightly. Filter network traffic. What the heck does that mean, Vlad? What is the FBI trying to say?
So what they are trying to say, to implement some kind of content filtering. What is content filtering? You can pretty much run any kind of software installed content filtering on your desktop or laptop workstation, or you can run using a physical firewall on your local network. Pretty much what it does, it just filters your network. It already has the database somewhere in the cloud that is syncing with your appliance or your software, where they already know pretty much it's every second is being updated with malicious IP addresses, malicious URLs. Pretty much doesn't give you access to access certain sites if they see they're malicious. That's all what it is. Just content filtering of websites that you are trying to access.
Yeah, and another thing I would add to that too with the content filtering is, what do you not want your employees to be doing on a 9 to 5? And Vlad, while we're doing that, can you go on your Twitter, your Facebook, and your LinkedIn and just post the link? So what do you not want your employees to do? Obviously, more than likely, your employees are not allowed to go to pornography, right? Your employees may not be allowed, or shouldn't be going to Facebook or to social media sites during work hours. Well, the cool thing with that is, with this filtering, you can actually put categories. So if your business is where you don't want anybody to go to alcohol websites, gambling websites, you can actually block it with that content filtering. Now, in this case, the reason the FBI is putting filter network traffic, because another, as Vlad was saying, is you want to be able to have something where if it's going to a bad website, a malicious website, this filtering can be able to help find that. So cybersecurity is like an onion. And just like the onion has layers and layers and layers and layers, it's the same thing with cybersecurity. You can't just have antivirus. You can't just have two-factor authentication. You can't just have spam filtering, because none of this is 100% guaranteed. So the idea is that if for whatever reason the spam filter doesn't catch it, then okay, let's now, the person clicks on it. The employee doesn't notice that this is a bad email. So even with the security awareness training, that wasn't successful. Then the goal is that the content filtering will now check this website and say, wait, this website doesn't look legit, and then stops the employee from continuing. So that's what the content filtering is. So let's go to our next one. Sorry, just switching screens. All right. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the next step will be update software. What does that mean? Including operating system applications and firmware IT network access. This is something that is part of every managed service provider, every IT company out there, where we prevent things from happening. Update your Windows operating system, your Windows workstations or Windows servers. Making sure that network equipment, sometimes there is a problems where there is a vulnerability with your network equipment as well. Switches, firewalls, let's say access points for your wireless. It's critical for all of those equipment to be up to date. There is so many security vulnerabilities that are happening out there with Windows specifically. We are 90% of our whole planet is using Windows operating system. So it's critical to make sure that you are up to date with the securities and patches.
But Vlad, our office has all Apple computers. We don't need to do that, right?
No, absolutely. You have to Apple too as well. I just mentioned Windows because it's the most common system, but Mac as well. Even though people are saying, "Oh, I'm buying Mac, I'm safe, no problems at all." That's not quite true. The thing with Apple is it's not interested for attackers to attack only 5 to 10% of the population all around the world who have a Macs, and you have a Linux, let's say five additional 5%. They want to more clients you have to attack, that percentage of somebody getting caught is much bigger than with the Macintosh. But there is still absolutely you have to update your Macintoshes as well.
Awesome. So I'm putting in the notes. Just because you have Apple/Mac systems don't mean you're not safe. It just means that as Vlad said, it's just because you are a minority in the whole scheme of things. Hackers are just going to go to the majority, which is the Windows operating system. So just putting that there in the thing. All right. So yes, go ahead.
Let's go for the next step.
Okay. So this one, I don't want to go too deep into this one because I don't think the business owners are going to understand it. So I'm going to help the FBI a little and change the words and limit who can access the network remotely. And Vlad, if you can talk about the Florida city, which is right off of Tampa, and what happened with them. Sorry, we didn't practice for this, but you guys know I called Vlad last night and I said, Vlad, I want to interview you as the guest speaker, as the cybersecurity expert. So Vlad, if you're aware of what happened off of Tampa with the water supply and how they remoted in.
They remoted using the RDP protocol, if I recall. So pretty much the RDP was open to outside world. Remote desktop protocol is, let me explain that. So remote desktop
is a bad word. You got to talk non-tech to our business owners.
Yes. So remote desktop is, we are talking about the Windows again. We are not talking about the Mac or Linux. Accessing remotely, as we know, pandemic hits almost year and a half, and all the workers start working from outside, connecting to their workstations from their homes. And what happened is that actually they left so in order for you to access certain workstations, you have to open certain ports on your firewall, your physical firewall that you have on site, in order for you to be able to access your workstation. And they opened that to outside world. So pretty much you can perform a port scan on particular IP of, let's say, that facility, or let's say, doesn't matter who it is, right? And once you run the port scan, you see, oh, this is open. So they brute force, meaning they force the attack towards that particular port. They know something is listening on that, right? That workstation was listening on that, and they were able to gain access by pretty much running algorithms and gain access to that workstation. That's exactly what this step is. Don't open the ports like that to outside world. There is a certain ports that needs to be open in order for you to communicate to outside world. But when it comes to RDP, remote desktop protocol, that's something that shouldn't be open from outside world, period.
Absolutely. And even to dig in a little more in that, especially with COVID happening, how are your employees working from home? What access are they using to work from home? And if you ever let go of an employee or employee ever resigns, do you have a system in place and a checklist in place where you're disabling them from being able to remote in? So in this case, with what happened also in Kansas, it happened in two places. There was a system where you have the water supply, and sometimes you need to check the water supply, but you don't want to have the employee drive on a Sunday afternoon all the way to the plant to check the controls. So they use the software called TeamViewer. And TeamViewer is a legit Fortune 500 company. Nothing's bad about TeamViewer. But in this case, they basically share the same login information. And when you share the same login information for an open program like a TeamViewer, what's to say that someone doesn't blackmail, coerce, bribe an employee to say, hey, I know they got TeamViewer over there. Just give me the username and password, and here's a couple of $100 or whatever the case is. Or if an employee leaves, but nobody realizes that you should change the standard login username and password, which is always why you should never share passwords. Everybody should have their own username and password, so that way if there's ever a separation, it's clear that way. So that's kind of what the FBI was trying to say there. So the next item we have is set antivirus and anti-malware programs to conduct regular scans. And Vlad, I always get pushback from some of my clients that we are trying to protect, and they're like, wait, why do I need to buy antivirus? So I like for you, and I know you mentioned this in one of your videos on your Facebook channel about free antivirus versus paid antivirus, and also what type of antivirus should you have as it relates to alerting and stuff like that. So go ahead and talk about that.
So, as I explained in one of my videos, the difference between Generation 1 and Gen 2 antivirus protection, it's pretty much, I'm not saying that the free or paid license, right? You can buy antivirus protection for a whole year, you pay the certain amount of dollar signs for it, and that's going to protect you. Yes, it's definitely going to protect you. It's not going to be that, oh, that is just throw money away through the window. No, absolutely not. It's better any antivirus protection than nothing, by all means. But the main difference between those two are AI learning, right? Database in the cloud for Gen 2, where they are all the time updated, can detect many malicious activity, versus the traditional one, Gen 1, so how they call it. They don't have that. It's pretty much working off of the certain signatures, everything that they do update, right? They can run the scans, they can be scheduled to run the scans, but all it's manual process, right? You schedule it, okay, I'm going to run a scan every day, but if the database is not properly updated and there is no somebody out there in the cloud that it's pretty much gathering the data every single second, it's not going to perform the same way. Free antivirus protection, they have even less access to those databases out there and AI learning. I'm not going to go too much into the details because on my video I went way too overboard with explanation. But the main difference is AI learning, and because the attackers there, they found their way around the traditional antivirus protection, where they can bypass certain things that they know that traditional antivirus protection will not find it, will not detect it. It's just going to let it go through.
Exactly. Yeah. So if your budget doesn't allow, free antivirus is better than anything. But if your budget allows it, you, especially in different industries that you may be in, get paid antivirus, and also make sure it's antivirus that's going to be alerting you, the business owner, or your IT team. Because with the free with the free antivirus, if something happens on your system, nobody knows about it except maybe the person sitting there. So it's and funny enough, there was I don't know if you saw that article, Vlad. About 2 weeks ago, there was a university, I believe it was in Colorado. They were doing COVID research, and they had to stop and shut down the entire university because the student did not want to pay for software that they needed. And so he basically, instead of paying for the software, he basically went on Google and put free, whatever the name of the software was. And that software had a virus in it. And as he's trying to install the virus, the antivirus says, hey, this doesn't look good. I don't think you should really continue. And instead of he just closed it because it was a free antivirus. And even though he closed it, the antivirus was still saying, hey, yeah, it's just not a good idea that you install the software. And then the student uninstalled the antivirus. This is on a university computer. That virus went on that computer and then naturally started to spread across, and the whole university was shut down. They had to stop the COVID research for about 3 weeks, and then they brought in a forensic person, and it turned back to that student because he did not want to pay for the software. Where if you think about it, the school is getting funded to do things, and I'm sure if that student went to the proper channels, they would have said, here's the school credit card, go at it. So and that's another thing with the free antivirus, is that there's less control, because with a managed antivirus, you can't just stop it. Like an administrator has to basically allow something to continue happening. So that's that. So, all right, the next one is implementing unauthorized execution prevention by, and it's talking about a few things. Let's not go too technical on this. So let's go ahead and talk about the whitelisting, Microsoft Office files, and things like that. But what, again, business owner, what should they care about when it comes to implementing unauthorized execution prevention?
Okay, so all of that, what that means is that if you're using Outlook desktop app, just as example, and I'm navigating this to Office 365 Exchange servers, there's an option under the, now we are getting, this is all attached to the spam filtering, where you can modify policies to detect certain things for antivirus. You can block certain, as I said here, certain macros or application allowing listing. So pretty much you're not going to be able to, when you try to open email, system is going to detect, is going to block certain application of running. It's going to detect there is something in that file, even though it looks legit, right? It's not going to allow it to run. Mm-hmm. So all of these four things can be prevented by implementing a spam threat policies that are available. And I believe they're also available in G Suite. I believe you can prevent certain things from happening. Not sure if it's as deep as the Exchange services, but definitely something that you can go ahead and configure. There is also part of, that are also add-ons that you can run towards your antivirus protection that you have on your desktop or laptop workstation, where you can also configure those settings to detect inside your email account if there is anything suspicious that you are trying to run, execute, or it's trying to dial in somewhere else.
Perfect. Couldn't say it better myself in plain English. All right. So we're going to skip a few of these. And now we're going to jump to, okay, let's jump now to where it says implement regular data backup procedures. And let's talk about the regularly test manual control. So let's, I always, there's a, you know, remember the fire drills back in school?
Yeah, I did not have them. I was not, we didn't, in Europe, we don't have those things.
Got it. Okay. So here in the States, when you were in school, and they would have tornado drills and they would have fire drills. And unfortunately now in 2021, they're having probably, you know, a person in the building and they're shooting. I don't know the proper word for that.
Fire drills. I'm sorry, I got wrong on that.
Okay. So there's different drills that schools have now, and businesses too. Even our business, one time unexpectedly the fire alarm came on, and there was no announcement, but security basically knocked on the door just because they wanted everybody to know not to take the elevator during a fire and where the emergency stairs were. That was the whole purpose of it. So going to what the FBI is recommending, they're saying that you should regularly test, and instead of manual controls, because they're talking about pipelines, regularly test your backup systems, regularly test your disaster recovery plan. I'll leave it at that, Vlad. Tell me about that.
I cannot stress enough how important backups are. There is the thing, you know, in plain English, right? We are trying to, let's say, if the things goes wrong, your whole network, again, all depends how the virus spreads or malicious activity spreads through the network, depends of your level of permissions that you have on the network. If you're a regular user, it's less likely that they will be able to gain access. But if you have any kind of safe credentials, that can happen as well. You're going to go through the whole network. What backups are, right? Backups are pretty much taking a snapshot of the current system and storing somewhere else on the local network or in the cloud. The best scenario is to have a local network. If the fire in the building, let's say, burns, you have files on the local network being backed up and also in the cloud, right? Mm-hmm. Checking the backups regularly every day. There is no it's as is important as a cybersecurity having a very good backups on your network. Budget have to be there for the backups, even though when we are trying to talk to our customers, it's very hard. People don't understand that how important backups are, because from certain things you're not going to be able to recover, right? If you have hourly backup, you can maybe lose 5-10 minutes of your work. Worst thing is if you don't pay the ransomware, if something happens, then I mean, you lose probably the data, or you can go back, or maybe they will not send you code, and et cetera, et cetera. So backups are very, very important, and you should be tested daily. You should definitely patch those servers as well, making sure they are up to date. And if you have ability to also send that data to the cloud somewhere in some data center as well, so just to have a second way of recovering if, let's say, building goes down.
Yeah, fortunately, unfortunately, have taken a lot of accounts because there was a disaster that happened for a business, and a disaster doesn't have to be a hurricane. Doesn't even have to be a fire. It could just be that a computer crashed, and the hard drive information was no longer there, and the company goes to their IT company and says, "Hey, computer crash. I need the documents. I need my share folders. I need all of this information." And then that IT company basically says, "Yeah, it's been about 4 months. For some reason, the backup stopped working." And the owner's like, "What do you mean? Like, you're charging me every month. You're charging me every year for a backup. What do you mean it's only 4 months? What do you mean it only happened the first time, and in the last 2 years it has not?" So it's very important to have backups and to test the backups. And it's really simple. Once a quarter, you take your most important file, your most important folder, and you just go to it. You do a restore to your desktop or whatever, and you double click and you open the file. Does it work? Does it open? Does it give any errors? Awesome, the backup works. And then if you have something like QuickBooks, the same thing. You go to a previous date, you restore it back to your computer, you open it. Is all my financials there? Does everything look right? Awesome, it works, and you move on. And that's how simple it is. And it takes 10-15 minutes, but it's unfortunately, unfortunately, sometimes IT companies are lazy, or they just don't do it, or they just have too many customers. So that should definitely be one of your questions that you ask for when you're interviewing your IT company, or even just ask them, send them an email. "Hey, show me proof that you did a backup test within the last 3 months, please." And if not, then you should be looking for somebody else or require that. So next thing on the list, and we're about 10 minutes, we got about 10 minutes left, Vlad. And for anybody that may have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We are answering questions live about how to make sure that your business does not show up on the news, like how we have Colonial Pipeline happening now with their cyber attack, and steps that you can take and go today to your business. Says, "Guys, this is not going to happen to us, and this is what we're going to do about it." So next item is... All right, so retain backup hardware. That's interesting. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah, the rebuild system in primary system is not preferred. Hardware that is newer, older than primary system can present isolation and component hardness when rebuilding from images. Well, what they are saying is that if, let's say, if you need, again, now we are going a little bit more technical, because you have a different ways of backing up the data, different vendors out there. What I use as for our IT company, we use Windows-based system, right? We have the host server that is hosting certain virtual machines that are being backed up. And then that backup appliance is also Windows machines where we can restore from backups or boot from backups like in a matter of minutes. If you need to restore, you want to make sure that that platform is capable of running, right? You don't want to run your backup software on something that does not support what you're having to back up that data. from that other host. So this is more referring if you have a physical servers, then the hardware, if you try to restore from the backups, different image, different type of backups, they're running differently. So we are talking now here more technical or different type of backups. Is it the file recovery? Is it the whole virtual machine or physical server recovery? So what they're saying is just to make sure that the hardware is up to date and it can handle the load. If you have, let's say, SQL database, you want to make sure that that server as well can handle that load when you restore it. That's what they're referring to.
Absolutely, yeah. And Vlad, let me ask you a question. If a company, if a company business owner, his or her computers system got ransomware, what would you do? Okay, like would you keep the devices? Like would you keep the laptop? Would you keep the desktop? Or like what would be your plan? So you walked into a situation, 10 computers out of all 10 computers got ransomware, and now they're like, okay, how do we recover for this? What would you do?
If they don't have any backups in place, and if this is very, very hopefully never happened to me or to you or anybody else, but it's a situation where you're trying to tell your customers, hey, we need to do this, we need to do, and all of a sudden, things go delayed, and all of a sudden we got hit with the ransomware. The 10 computers, like you said yourself, 10 computers are pretty much all encrypted. You cannot do nothing with it. We cannot pay the ransomware. There is no tool, such a tool in the world that will be able to decrypt that. Even if there is, you have to have some super powerful computer to be able to break those codes, or it's going to take years. But the thing is, you will have to. I will not get rid of those machines. We'll perform the full reinstall, clean up the network, making sure that if the network is affected, make sure everything is up to date. There's no any kind of activity that are happening from outside. Nobody had access from outside to inside. So I will not get rid of those workstations. I will not do that. Yeah, I will just reuse it and making sure that they're all good to go afterwards.
Got it. Now you guys hear Microsoft Teams in the background. Vlad, a different day, we're going to do a video, being that you are the Microsoft expert, and I would love to talk to our customers and your customers about some different tip sets that people can implement in Teams. So just gave me an idea there, so I'm glad it came on. So we are on the final stretch. We got a couple of more minutes, so if you have any questions, please go ahead and fill them below. We are live with Vlad with GBSIT, IT services and cybersecurity. He has been a very great resource to us here in Miami with ARC Solvers, and with the Colonial pipeline hack. I felt that it was very important that because the FBI and other government agencies, CISA, gave a bulletin about what best practices a business should do to avoid ransomware attacks. And as I was reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is all not in English. This is in another language. How are business owners going to be able to understand all of this? And that's why we have Vlad here today. So let's do the last one. And I think we actually touched on it, which is isolate the infected system, turn off other computers and devices, and secure your backups. Why is it so important to secure your backup after a ransomware attack?
After the ransomware attack, you will obviously restore from those backups if you have them in place, and you want to make sure you continue to do so. Meaning that however your backups are configured, that means they are working. That means that they saved your business. They got you back online in matters of minutes, let's say an hour tops. If you have, depends again how big the network is, how big the database is, how many servers you have available. So keep securing them, making sure you test them every day, making sure there is no connection between the backups and the whole network when it comes to the credentials and everything else, making sure that is all different. And that's all what it says. Making sure you continue doing your good job if you're doing a good job protecting your network and making sure your backups are up to date.
Exactly. And one of the reasons why you also want to be able to secure your backups is because we talked about earlier that ransomware spreads. So what you don't want is you don't want the ransomware to spread to your backup devices, because if that is infected, then you're essentially, you know, your backup is infected, your original data is infected, and hopefully you also have something in the cloud that has protection so that if it detects ransomware, it will actually stop it. So all right, Vlad, we did it. We did it. We got about 5 minutes left. So I wanted to take a few minutes for you to expound on your services. What is it that you specialize in? Your location. And as we talked about, it doesn't really matter where you are. Vlad is available for you. And I'm also going to put in the comments how you can reach Vlad. And I'm also going to show it. It didn't come out too well here, but basically we have Vlad at gvsitservices.com. We have his phone number, and I'm going to redo this one because it didn't come out well here. But go ahead, Vlad. Talk about how people can reach you and what you specialize in, because you're not only cybersecurity.
Yeah, that is correct. So pretty much we're located in Northeast Florida. We target the area from Jacksonville all the way to Orlando, north part of Orlando. We are right there in the middle. So what we specialize in, we help small to medium businesses with their IT needs. Specialized. I have a big background. I used to work for managed service providers as well, but worked mostly last 5 years with Office 365, their services. We can definitely help you, get you up and running. I don't see any reason why would some business run anything other than Exchange. It just syncs between devices. It's flawless. We can definitely help you migrating from different platforms to Exchange services. Doesn't matter if that's on premises or if it's in the cloud with Microsoft. Definitely we can help you with your network needs anywhere in the United States. Like Andre says, we have clients in California and Florida. So that's you can reach us at gvsitservices.com. Phone number is 904-479-3233, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
Awesome. And, you know, I want to also just give a big thank you to Vlad. As I mentioned last minute, I called Vlad, and I've been actually pushing him. So we're going to put our business hats on since we have 2 minutes left. And I've been pushing Vlad to get your information out there, get your name out there. And I know this is going to start. And Vlad, how long has you officially made the jump when you said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go out on my own?
Well, the company was always kind of like a side because I was so busy with Microsoft, and it was always on the side. But actually, last year, right before pandemic, we started pushing towards this, and in the middle of the year, last year in the middle of the year, we decided to 100% dedicate to our business. Last year, yeah, June, it was definitely full cutover where it wasn't anymore part-time; it became a full-time.
Awesome. Yeah, I always encourage people. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, but
Yeah.
you know, you can tell when someone wants to do it, and at some point, when you're not to say anything bad about your previous employers or even my previous employers, because one day I decided to make the jump, but it's scary. It's going to hurt when you jump out of that, you know, parachute, and you're going to tumble and you're going to hit some hills. But at the end, it was all worth it, and I know you're going to reap those benefits soon and get your employees, and then have those problems, and kind of like
looking forward to those hustles.
Exactly. Cool, man. So Vlad, if any last words before we end the broadcast?
I think we're good. Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to share my knowledge with outside world. So again, if you guys have any questions, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to help. We are in Northeast Florida.
Awesome. And thank you also so much, everyone, for watching this. My name is Reginald Andre with Arc Solvers. We are a cybersecurity and IT company based in South Florida. And as Vlad said, he's Northern Florida, but whoever you like better, just call us. We're as long as you're one of us, we're happy, because we that's how that's, you know, that's one of the great things about IT. And I know we're trying to end the conversation, but there's so much business for all of us, and even though it is like a cutthroat type of business, but there's so much business to go around. Like I had someone earlier today, they were in Ohio and they needed a referral, and it wasn't a good fit for me, but I gave them two different people that I know that they're going to take care of, and that's kind of the same thing with IT, which is why I love our industry. All right, with that said, I'll keep on talking forever. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.